We're just a little ways away from the primary election season for the presidential cycle here in the greater West Bloomfield area. There's so much to know as you get ready to go to the polls or get your votes in beforehand. So, joining us to give us a little bit of insight on what you need to know right now before you head to the polls is West Bloomfield Township Clerk Debbie Binder. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning, Tyler. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. We know that we're coming up on some deadlines for the upcoming election, in particular for registration, some changes that are on their way. If people want to register getting closer to Election Day.
Well, since Proposal 18.3, since 2018, we are allowed to have same-day registration. So voters can register up to 8 p.m. on Election Day. And when they do register on that day, they do have a choice of voting by absentee ballot or going to their precinct to vote. They are the only voters that can get an absentee ballot on Election Day and as a same-day registrant. And they may only register once. They can't register in more than one place on Election Day. But they can register up till 8 p.m. So that is a change that has been in effect for a couple of years now.
And as we get closer to Election Day, Tuesday, February 27th, is the presidential primary for the state of Michigan. As we approach that date, early voting will begin very soon. What should we know about the timeline for that and how we go about early voting if that's how we choose to get our voice heard?
So early voting will begin this Saturday. And one important change to accommodate early voting, as well as processing that's now allowed in larger communities, is that the deadline to spoil an absentee ballot that has already been turned in will now be this Friday at 4 p.m. So if anybody for any reason needs to spoil that absentee ballot, keep in mind, if you've turned it in, it's by 4 p.m. this Friday. If you haven't turned it in or it didn't get to you, you can request a new ballot by up to 4 p.m. the Monday before the election. But this is a pretty significant change from previously when you could, it's about at least a week early and 9 days earlier than before that. So something important to keep in mind, if the landscape of the election were to change for any reason, that is your last day to spoil your absentee ballot. But if you do wish to vote in an early voting situation, one, you may bring your absentee ballot to an early voting center or to your precinct. Early voting center will be open the second Saturday prior to the election, Saturday, Sunday, through that whole week, and then the following Saturday, Sunday. No early voting the day before the election. However, you can request an absentee ballot up to 4 p.m. the Monday before the election. If you do choose to early vote, one of the advantages is you get feedback. If you were to make a mistake on your ballot, you are able to spoil it in the precinct and request a new one. That machine will spit it back if not. If you turn it in as an absentee ballot, there's no voter there to cure a problem, so the ballot would be cast as is. So there is an advantage to early voting. Maybe the lines will be a little bit shorter too, but it is a great option for people. It is available on the days it's open, except Thursday from 8:30 to 4:30, and on Thursday it's noon to 8. And another important thing to remember is the clerk's office is always open at least 8 hours the weekend before the election. Typically, it's from 8 to 4 on Saturday prior to an election for absentee voting. So lots of ways to participate and have your voice heard. We try to make it easy, and we try to make it accessible. So if anyone has questions, I would have them call my office at 248-451-4848. We're very friendly and we're happy to answer questions. One other important thing to keep in mind is when we match signatures, we're matching it to your driver's license. Now, the name doesn't have to be exact. For example, if I wrote D. Binder as opposed to Deborah Binder, and we could tell that it was my signature, it would be acceptable. But the signature we're looking at is typically your driver's license. We do have a MasterCard file if we need to go to that MasterCard file to check to see if there's an older signature that matches. But that's what we're looking for in terms of signature. Also, make sure you sign that absentee ballot. And keep in mind, right now, we are seeing significant delays in the mail, some up to 2 to 3 weeks. So if you rely on the mail, don't wait. But know that once it's turned in again, it's kind of incongruous with if you turn it in early, you can't spoil it now earlier. But if you do rely on the mail, I would recommend getting it in early. If you are able to get to any of our Dropbox locations, there are 2 at Town Hall, 1 on each side. There's 1 at ACS, which is the Administrative Community Service Building for West Bloomfield School District. And there's 1 in front of West Bloomfield Connect over at 14 and Farmington. So there are options to turn in that absentee ballot. Absentee ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day.
So Debbie, just before we let you go, about 30 seconds left. You mentioned the drop boxes for dropping off your ballots if you are early voting or if you're absentee voting and you want to make sure that they get in without any issues in the mail. Who can drop those off? Is it just the people that are that have their name on the ballot, or can someone drop that off for them?
It's expressed right on the envelope. So the best advice is for a person to read what it says right on that ballot envelope, and it tells who may carry a person's ballot. And that's probably the best place to look and determine if that fits in, if you fit into that legally permissible person to carry the ballot.
Debbie, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. So many questions with so many different options as we head into the election. We always appreciate your time and your insight.
Thank you, and please have people call because it's a lot of changes that we're implementing, and we are glad to help walk people through it.
All the information you need to know about contacting the clerk's office on wbtownship.org.